Hey, hey, hey! Welcome to my Annabelization podcast today. It is a sunny, crisp, cold day in Zurich, and I'm here sitting with you, and I can't wait to start my new podcast show. Annabelization is my concept of how I have been traveling around the world with music and with my ukulele. And it's how I've used music to relate to the world, to different cultures, and to connect with people who had nothing to do with me and ice break into their lives. And in this podcast series, I really want to look at how is music in a person's life a tool, whether it be for their mental health, whether it be because they want to get a message across that they can never say out loud, whether it be creating a political movement, you name it. But I want in this podcast series to have a speaker each week from a different culture, a different country, and then together we really explore their relationship with music, how their culture impacted that, and how they're using music as a tool in their daily life and how it's impacting others. I think we're going to have a lot of interesting discussions if we do this properly. So, this is the introductory episode to Annabelization podcast, which has a ukulele at all times in the studio with me, so it will be a fun one. I think at this moment you might be thinking, where is this girl from? Because it's a bit of a strange accent, isn't it? Right, well, so I'll give you the answer. I'm actually French born, je suis française, but actually nowadays when I go to France and I speak French, they even tell me I have a weird accent, so I don't even really know where I'm supposed to place myself anymore. I was born in France, and I lived there until I was 11, but then after that I started living in other countries, so I guess it's a bit of a mix. I have a English German mother, and I have a French dad, but with Italian origin, so that's why my last name is Personeni, it's Italian. Yes. Basically, I started music when I was 9. I started because my mum was going to individual singing classes. She loves music and she plays piano and she loves to sing. And she brought me along one day. She said, "Hey, you should come because I think maybe you have a nice voice." So we went together. And to be honest, I was a bit nervous. I was only 9. It was an individual lesson. There was a teacher. It was very intimate. It wasn't like a group where you can kind of, slink to the back. And so I was quite shy, and I enjoyed it, but I remember being quite stressed also in the class, and it was a bit of a stressful introduction, I would say, to music. But I liked it. I thought, okay, this is nice. I like singing. Later on, this is when I really got my hands onto music, because when we went to the US, I joined a choir in high school and in middle school. So that was fantastic because it's really what makes you really learn music from such an organic way, right? From listening to others, knowing how to harmonize, being together in a group. So for me, that is really what taught me the fundamentals of music and even the essence of what it's about, in my opinion. Like, for me, music is about it has to be shared. It's not something I want to be doing alone and not sharing with people. And then when I went to university, I completely disconnected at that point with music because I didn't have my choir anymore, and I loved my choir so much, and I was so sad not to be with them anymore. And I tried joining some other choirs at my university, but those were quite very formal and only once a week, and I used to go every day, like every day of the week we had choir, so it was just such a big change, and I didn't want to do this once a week choir in a church. Like, I just didn't want that. So I stopped doing music. I was busy with many other things anyway, studying sports and things like that. But it was only in my last year of university, just that same year that COVID hit, that I went through this breakup, and I realized how much more time I had for myself, and to help also deal with the sadness and the void that we all get when we break up. I decided to start singing again, and I thought, okay, cool, like, let me reconnect with something I haven't done in so long. At that time, I was actually living with a musician. His name was Sam. such a talented musician. He plays piano, violin, guitar, like really the sweetest soul and the greatest guy. What a great musician. And so I was living with him and I told him, why don't you teach me some guitar? I mean, it's lockdown. Where are you going to go anyway? You don't have a choice. And he said, you're right. I'm screwed. I have to teach you. And so we started and I couldn't do it. I thought it was so hard. The guitar's so big. My fingers were not flexible. I didn't have the muscle memory to do all these positions and things. So I said, you know what? No, this is not easy. I don't like it. And he said, you know what, Annabelle? Maybe you should try the ukulele because it's much smaller and it's much easier. So I said, okay, all right, let's do it. So he had this really shitty, tinny, tiny plastic ukulele that he gave me. And he said, here you go, take that and try it. So I started and I just loved the challenge. I loved it. I thought, oh my God, this is so fun and so small and I can take it everywhere with me. And so I started learning. I started playing it. I was very bad. I was very bad. I am not a musician. It has not come to me easily at all. So, but I just stuck with it because I thought, oh, I just would love to one day be able to sing and play and accompany myself. Because to me, it was such a big challenge. It was such a big independent goal, you know, to be able to play in front of an audience, captivate an audience, but by myself. I don't need a choir, I don't need a piano player, I don't need anyone accompanying me, it's just myself. So for a long time, that was a huge goal for me, just push through, push through, push through, and eventually get that to work, you know. It's only 2 years ago that I decided to completely stop doing my full-time jobs in other domains and to just dedicate myself to music. And so that's what I did 2 years ago. I took my ukulele and my plan was to go back to California because since that's where I'd lived before, I wanted to go back to where I had loved being in a choir and doing music, and it was sunny and amazing. And so I went back, I applied to a jazz program in a community college, and I was excited. I was going to start and just see, okay, what happens when I really give myself 1 year to just do music? Well, you know what? Honestly, after a week, I decided it wasn't for me. I said, you know, this is too formal. It's like school all over again, but not in a good way. And so I said to myself, this is not how I want to learn music. This is I don't want to do it like this, not in this constrained way and so like with rules and tests. And so I quit. I said, no, I'm not going to do this. And I decided to go traveling instead. And what's close to California? Mexico. I also speak Spanish, so I really love the challenge of going to a Spanish speaking place and take my ukulele with me. So that's what I did. I went to Mexico, I went to San Cristobal de las Casas, and here I was. I started, and I did a yoga course there, so I met some people at the beginning. I had a bit of a group, I wasn't completely alone. But then I started really exploring the musical sides of this city, right? It was super cool. There were so many musicians, there were so many dances, a lot of live music, and I really got involved in the musical scene. And I had this ukulele teacher who was an Argentinian rock player. Really cool, super sexy, super broody, mysterious. I'd never met someone like that in my life before. And so I started going and playing music with him, and we formed a musical duo. And that was kind of my first breakthrough of like really performing, but with someone on stage. And it was so special. It was so special. I discovered a new dimension to music and to singing live, and then when you add in also being in love with the person you make music, because we were together briefly, it's a fantastic. So that was amazing. After that, we did go to Argentina together. That's what we did, and but it didn't end up working because we were just too different. But I learned so much from him. I was introduced to a completely new culture with Argentinian, everything Argentinian, like how you speak, that's different, the food, the attitude, the mindset, the culture. And so I was actually really really intrigued. So I went to Argentina with him, and then when we separated, I found myself alone in Buenos Aires. What the hell am I doing in Buenos Aires by myself? You know, like I know no one. I was very lost. I'd just broken up. I thought, oh my God, Dios mío. No, for real, I felt really horrible. But I was faced with a choice. I was faced with a choice. What do you do? Do you just go home to Europe? Go back home and think, okay, this was an experience? Or do you persevere a little bit longer? You know, do you try and find your own experience in this new country? Because if you stop now, then it's forever going to be, oh, that Latin American trip I did, and then I got my heart broken, and then I went home. And I don't want that, because heartbreak is fine, you know, we all go through it and it's a learning experience, but I don't want it to stop at that. You can do a lot through that. So I stayed in Argentina a bit longer, and then I found more musicians. I met musicians, I met bands, and it was honestly quite fantastic, I have to say. I was amazed at how open people were. They were so open with me. They invited me to play with them. I joined a band, and when I came back to Europe that summer, I planned to return. I said, you know what? I'm going to go back to Buenos Aires and I'm going to do an Edith Piaf show in Buenos Aires. So I planned this entire show with a band that they had become my friends. I mean, really, have you heard of something so spontaneous and open on their part? I mean, it is so special. So I was really impressed. And for me, this is one of my like first-hand experiences with how various cultures will they receive you differently according to music, right? So I was playing music, and by playing music I made friends who even took me into projects with them and included me. It's this does not happen in every culture. It does not. I mean, some cultures are much more closed than this one. So I was very lucky with that. And from then, I just started this amazing Argentinian adventure by myself and doing these shows with them. And then I started producing my own music. And my own music, so this is where it's very interesting to explore how has culture really shaped my own songwriting. Because I'm French, technically, right? So I'm born in France, but then I have all this influence from the US and I have influence from Latin America. So I believe that my US influence made me, like, it opened me up much more, right, to being into show, like giving shows and being a performer, because we got a lot of training with that. I was also in a musical in the US, and it's there's a big hype around being a good performer there and being outgoing and being confident and coming out of your shell. And so I think that helped me a lot back then. But I actually really came out of my shell in Latin America when it comes to music. Honestly, they have real stories to tell in their music. It's you feel what they're feeling when they sing, whether it be a tango, whether it be a folklore song, um, and I really was transported during my time there, and it was so it was so intense emotionally. So this is really amazing to me because, for example, I mean, this is also why I want to talk about culture in my podcast, is because I've experienced such rich different cultures, and I've seen how they change people's music style and how they change the way they interact with music. For me, the Argentinians, they have this culture with music where it's really about sharing and it's really about like connecting with people, and it's about connecting with people's stories, and it doesn't even matter where they're from. They don't have to be closed. So for me, that's such a wonderful feeling, and it's one of my favorite things about music and traveling with it. Now that I'm back in Switzerland, um I've created my business, Annabelization, And I'm creating a lot of events myself. So I'm hosting a lot of open mics. I'm doing music in yoga studios, in retirement homes, in bars, in Christmas markets, in museums, anywhere, honestly, because I'm trying to continue spreading music and this concept of sharing with everyone and in a lot of different settings, because I think it's really a simple thing, is to connect with music and be together. So it shouldn't have to be reserved to only formal things. Back to my songwriting. If you listen to all my songs, first of all, they're all written in different languages. They're written in English, French, and Spanish. And that's according to, honestly, it was according to who I was writing the song to, and also where I was. I really started writing in Mexico, and a lot of it started with this Argentinian rock star teacher of mine, because unleashed a lot of creative things inside of me. Like, he made me, I really wanted to write a lot about him and about what we'd lived. I've used my songwriting as a tool, and I want to share with you in what way. What way is music a tool for me? For me, it's like a journal. It's my own intimate journal, and usually I actually use it to say something to a loved person that I can't really say to them, to their face. So it's usually actually, it's a way to really share a truth of mine, but that I can't really say out loud, but I say it in my songs, because it feels like, okay, I can dress this up with some metaphors. No one will really know who it's for. So it's a bit of a hidden way of really expressing my most complicated and, like, my inner fights that we all have, right? So it's really amazing, because it's kind of like a diary. It's kind of like you therapize yourself because you write about it, and then you feel like, oh, I got this off my chest. But most importantly, for me, singing through my original songs, it's just helped me. It has helped me catharsize emotions that, a lot of times it's things that I can't change, because it's about people, right? And you can't change people. People have to change themselves. So if you feel powerless in a situation, in a breakup or in a fight or in a situation, in a relationship, any relationship, I find it really empowering to write a song about it, because then it's yours and you can say really what you want, and then you can sing it, and it's great. I know it sounds simple, but it's really helped me. So this is how I think I've used my songwriting as a tool. Mainly it's to help myself deal with things that I don't want to deal with a therapist, or I don't want to go and talk to my closest friend to about it, or it's different. It's with myself this time. But then the ironic part of it is that it becomes public, right? But the thing about that is that you have to put yourself in such a vulnerable space, when you have to sing about these intimate things. You know what it's about. Maybe you've done a good job at hiding what it's really about, but you feel so vulnerable on stage that I find that overcoming that fear of being vulnerable on stage, singing about something that you're scared of or that you don't know how to deal with, in itself, it just creates such an empowering feeling afterwards, because you've done it. You faced your fears. You said what you had to say. And in the process, if you connect with your audience and they feel what you're feeling, you just catharsize all together as well, because then people are responding to that, and they then connect whatever emotion you're putting out. They connect it with something they've been going through, and then it helps them also. So this is really the beauty of songwriting, in my opinion, how I've used music as a tool for myself. And I can't wait to explore how other musicians, but it doesn't just have to be musicians. It could be songwriters, choir conductors, it can be producers. And this is what I'm going to bring to you in this podcast. I'm going to bring to you really cool, really interesting, really different people from all over the world, and we're going to explore that together. We're going to explore how their culture impacts their music, how has it impacted their relationship with music, and then how do they use music in their life as a tool for themselves or for their community or for their loved ones. That's what we're going to do. So if you like that, if you think it's interesting, please join us. And also, just, if you ever want to message me on Instagram, I'm really open to that. I would love to hear your thoughts. And, if there's a specific person you want me to interview, then I would love to also check that out for you. To me, I just want to create a space where it's super open, and we're interviewing unique personalities and talking about music and how it's changed their life and how it's changing others. So with that, I would love to close the episode, and I hope that you've had a good time. And I will close with a part of my song Jaula Imaginaria. Ese día me capturaste con una guitarra y una caricia. Fuiste mi jaula imaginaria, probando mi esencia. Pero no se puede capturar el olor de las rosas, o el humo de un cigarrillo. Mi risa o mi atención, pero yo te